In October 2001, a retired school teacher in Ohio opened her monthly pension statement and noticed that the Enron shares her fund had been holding for years had lost nearly all their value in a matter of weeks. She called her financial advisor. He told her not to worry. The company was fundamentally sound. The analysts were still recommending it as a buy. 12 weeks later, Enron did not exist. Her retirement savings were gone. She had never heard of mark-to-market accounting. She had never heard of special purpose entities. She had no way of knowing that the 70-floor tower in Houston with the company name on the side had been financially hollow for years, while the men running it collected hundreds of millions of dollars in compensation for a performance that existed entirely on paper. In the summer of 2001, Enron was the 7th largest company in the United States, $90 billion in market value. Fortune magazine had named it the most innovative company in America 6 consecutive years. 20,000 people showed up to work there every morning with genuine belief that they were part of something real. What they were actually part of was the most sophisticated accounting fraud in corporate history. Enron did not sell energy. It sold the appearance of selling energy. It recorded future profits as current income. It buried billions in debt inside entities that never appeared on any public financial statement. It constructed an architecture of numbers so deliberately complex that its own board could not understand what they were approving. The building was full of people. The company was already empty, and 3 men at the very top had known that for years. Kenneth founded Enron in 1985 with a genuine vision. Natural gas deregulation was creating new markets, and he wanted to be at the center of them. He was charming, politically connected, personally close to 2 American presidents, and completely convinced that the rules governing ordinary companies did not apply to one as exceptional as his. Jeff Skilling arrived later and brought something more dangerous than ambition. He brought a philosophy. Skilling believed with absolute sincerity that conventional accounting was too slow and too conservative to capture the true value of what Enron was building. He championed mark-to-market accounting, a method that allowed Enron to record the estimated future profits of a deal on the day it was signed rather than when the money actually arrived. The Securities and Exchange Commission approved it. Skilling treated that approval as permission to take the logic as far as it would go. It went very far. Andy Fastow was the architect of the structures that made the whole thing invisible. As chief financial officer, he created hundreds of shell entities with names like Raptor and Condor that existed for one purpose: to absorb Enron's losses and debt so they would never appear on the main financial statements that investors and analysts were reading. Together, these 3 men created a corporate culture with one unspoken and absolute rule: nobody asks questions that might produce answers we do not want. Skilling once told an analyst who questioned Enron's financials on a live earnings call that he was an asshole. The call was with hundreds of institutional investors listening in real time. Nobody sold their shares that day. That detail alone tells you everything about how completely the illusion had taken hold. In 2017, Wall Street analysts were actively covering Enron stock. 16 of them had it rated as a buy or strong buy in the months before the collapse. These were not naive people. They were professionals paid extraordinary salaries specifically to understand the financial reality behind corporate numbers. They understood it perfectly. That was the problem. The banks that structured Enron's deals knew what the shell entities were for. JP Morgan Chase and Citibank had helped design transactions specifically engineered to disguise loans as trading revenue. They collected hundreds of millions in fees for that service. Arthur Andersen, one of the 5 most prestigious accounting firms in the world, signed off on Enron's financial statements every year for nearly a decade. Their partners in the Houston office billed Enron $1 million per week. That number tells you everything about whose interests were being protected when the auditors reviewed the books. The board of directors voted twice to formally suspend Enron's own code of ethics, specifically to allow Fastow's structures to exist. They did not do this accidentally. They read the documents, asked their questions, received their answers, and voted yes. Every single institution that existed to prevent exactly this kind of fraud was present, informed, and actively participating in allowing it to continue. Not because they were all criminal masterminds, because the system of incentives made silence worth more than honesty for every individual actor at every individual moment. The analyst who raised doubts lost the investment banking relationship. The auditor who pushed back lost the fee. The board member who voted no lost the stock options. Nobody was willing to be the one person who ended the party. So the party continued until the building burned down around all of them. In August 2001, a vice president at Enron named Sharon Watkins sat at her desk and did something that nobody else in the entire organization had been willing to do. She wrote a memo to Kenneth, the chief executive officer and founder of the company, and told him directly that Enron was going to implode in a wave of accounting scandals. Not cautiously, not with diplomatic language designed to protect her position. She named the structures. She named the risks. She described exactly how the shell entities would collapse the moment the stock price fell below a certain threshold, and explained in precise terms why the entire edifice was built on assumptions that could not survive contact with reality. She handed it to the most powerful man in the company and told him the company was going to destroy itself. Lay's response was to send the memo to Enron's lawyers and ask them to assess whether Watkins could be legally terminated for writing it. She was not fired, but nothing she wrote was acted upon. No structures were unwound. No disclosures were made. No calls were placed to regulators. The memo was filed. The executives continued selling their personal Enron shares at prices they privately knew were fictitious, while simultaneously encouraging employees to hold their retirement accounts in the same stock. Between January and July 2001, Skilling sold $33 million worth of Enron shares. Lay sold $70 million worth. They knew. They sold. And 20,000 employees kept showing up to a building that its own leadership had already quietly evacuated. Watkins later testified before Congress. She became the public face of the whistleblower. She received death threats. The three men at the top received something else entirely. In 2002, the United States Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. New rules, new requirements, new criminal penalties for executives who signed off on fraudulent financial statements, new oversight mechanisms for auditing firms. Washington held hearings. Executives went to prison. Arthur Andersen, the auditing firm that had enabled the fraud for a decade, was convicted and ceased to exist within months. The system had responded. The lesson had been learned. 7 years later, the entire global banking system collapsed in the largest financial fraud in human history. Different instruments, different institutions, different names on the door, identical mechanism, complex products nobody fully understood, incentive structures that rewarded short-term performance over long-term reality, and an ecosystem of banks, ratings agencies, and regulators who collectively chose not to ask the questions that would have ended the party early. Enron did not teach the system anything. It taught individuals inside the system how to build the next version more carefully. Kenneth died before sentencing. Skilling served 12 years and was released. Fasto served 6 years, became a public speaker on corporate ethics, and charges speaking fees to explain to audiences how he did it. The retired school teacher in Ohio never recovered her pension. That asymmetry is not an accident. It is the system working exactly as designed for the people who designed it. If you watch this far, you now understand how the largest frauds in history are not committed in the dark. They are committed in full view of everyone paid to stop them. Subscribe to the channel and write in the comments, do you think the next Enron is already happening right now? The most honest answer gets a full breakdown in the next video.